Tampa Bay Lightning, 110 points last year, blah, blah, blah. Third Stanley Cup thing, blah, blah, blah.
Feels like we
lost some people, blah, blah, blah. They're still good.
We all know the roster top to bottom because every year there's only 2 teams to watch in June. And they're one of them.
One of them's Tampa. It's just a rotating cast of who's their dance partner. Last season, 110 points, good enough for third in the division. It gives you an idea of the have and have not nature of the Atlantic Division. Jesse, Sports Interaction, what are we looking at in terms of odds here?
Their over-under for the season points is 103.5.
Oh, I wish they weren't so good at this.
I think over.
Oh my God, I'm putting my everything on the over.
I'll say over. I'll sprinkle the over.
I mean, listen, this is a great team.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at the lineup and you go, okay, well, they lost some players. They lost Palat for sure. You got to see if Sergachev can jump into that next spot. We're going to get to all that stuff. But when I look at the players that they have, what have they really lost from this roster? You know, in the last few years, Blake Coleman, Barclay Goodrow, I almost said Johnny Goodrow,
Yanni
Gord. But you still look at this top line: Stamkos, Point, Kucherov. Yes.
Yep.
Killorn, Cirelli, Hagel. Yes.
Hagel
pain in the butt.
Such an underratedly good move because it wasn't just about last year and getting to another cup. He's going to be on your team for the foreseeable future.
The whole season.
From the 21 Cup, they lost that third line. Gord, Coleman, Goudreau.
Yeah.
And then the next season, they went back to the Stanley Cup. Losing players around the periphery for the Tampa Bay Lightning doesn't hinder their chances at success.
And
it's a very good team.
They once lost Vlad Nemestikov, and they got him back. He's on the third line.
He was there for the other Cup run where they lost,
I think
right?
so. Yeah.
And 15.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ross, and then was traded right before they won again, I think. Nemesnikov, Colton, and Nick Paul. You know, listen.
Oh, Nick Paul! I forgot about that.
Yeah, you might not think too much about that line, but Nick Paul is such a pain in the ass. Ross Colton's such a pain in the ass. Defensively very smart. And then, of course, you know, the spirit and heart and soul of the Tampa Bay Lightning and Patrick Maroon.
You know, a lot of teams really struggle to hold on to their deadline acquisitions. Both teams who made it to the Stanley Cup Final were able to do it.
Yes.
The Avalanche were able to keep Arturi Lehkonen and Josh Manson. The Lightning were able to hold on to Nick Paul and Brandon Hagel.
Pat Maroon, Pierre-Edouard Bellemare, and Corey Perry. We're starting with the offense. Guys.
And in there will be Cirelli at some point when he comes back from
I have him as the center of the second line if he's going to be there. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So
but the Lightning friggin' love when their own guys are hurt.
well, it saves
like
them so much money.
It's fun. Well, there's that. But like they look at it's a challenge. It's fun. Let's do it.
Right.
Yeah, and like Steven Stamkos last season had the second best season of his career. He's only I don't know if he's upset at the world for thinking that he might have been done because of all those injuries he suffered through the last couple of years.
Adam and I talking shit.
He did.
And then last season he goes out and 100-point season, he looks unbelievable. And I think like that mentality is what I see happening with the Tampa Bay Lightnings this regular season, because so many people are like, oh, you know, the Lightning, not a good regular season team, blah, blah, blah. And like last season they had, I think they're going to take over that attitude from last season, and this season they're going to be focused. They're going to get back to the top of the division, I think, by the end of this year.
It's a tough one that like to say that they're going to be top of the division, because I do think that they have. You can make the argument they've lost a step in terms of a regular season team, right? They don't quite have the punch in terms of waves anymore. Like if they're all healthy, you know, and Cirelli's back, it's still kind of scary that, you know, Stamkos is your number one center, Braden Point's number two. You could put Cirelli at number 3, but Nick Paul's there too. Like, it's not fun, but there's a lot of miles on all of those bodies. And at the end of the day, do the Lightning really care where they end up in the playoffs? Didn't matter to them last year.
Not a team in this league wants to play them in round 1, no matter where they finish. Not a team in this league. Now, you mentioned the hard miles on the body. There is something that we never consider with Tampa because it's their free space, is their goaltending. Andrei Vasilevsky is year in and year out the best goalie in the league. Now, we talk about Igor Shesterkin, and Ilya Sorokin has made his way into that conversation, but he's a little bit like Henrik Lundqvist in that every year he's going to be top 3. I don't care who you have as the number 1 for that particular year. He is the free space. He is top 3. He has played so many freaking games, probably more than any goalie in the world over the last 3 years, because of regular season he's heavily relied upon and the playoffs. And even though he's been healthy basically the whole time, you can't tell me he's actually been healthy the whole time. The Tampa Bay Lightning play through everything. So who's behind him? Who's the backup goalie for the Tampa Bay Lightning?
A very good Brian Elliott.
Yeah,
the very good, very old Brian Elliott. So
you can be old when you're playing the game 15 times a year.
That's true. That's definitely
Doesn't matter.
True. And never making a playoff appearance ever because you don't have to. But it's just something there on the back burner. It's just something there. They've been too lucky when it comes to the regular season.
No.
When it comes to the regular season. Dude, a lot of teams have nightmare scenarios and they haven't really had to deal with one.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
That could be one.
I like this Tampa Bay Lightning team after they've taken a punch. The Colorado Avalanche defeated them in the Stanley Cup Final. It's now time for Tampa Bay Lightning revenge season. It's remind everybody who's counting us out, and we're going to go destroy for 82 games plus the playoffs. That's why I'm so high on them during the regular season. And like the Vasilevsky games he's played a shit ton of games, 63 in the regular season last year, all 22 in the playoffs. But in both cases, in terms of save percentage, he was off the charts. It was a 922 during a playoffs that he, quote, struggled. Like all those games versus the Leafs were like, oh, Vassie's a little shaky. You know, he's allowing these goals. He lost back-to-back games for the first time in 3 years.
Leafs have his number.
All these, you look at the numbers, they're still outstanding. They're still the best goalie in the world numbers.
He got better as the playoffs went.
Ryan Elliott's save percentage, by the way, jumped from .899 to .912 with the Lightning last year. He played 19 games.
Man,
it's great. He can't play that much. I think like 63 is a little too much. Get a little down to 50 something, but I can play the hell out of Vassy.
They're gonna find a way to trade Maroon for Sorokin anyway. we all know it's gonna happen. No, underratedly, Derek Lalonde going from the Tampa Bay Lightning, he was a part of all 3 of those Stanley Cup runs. The assistant coach's role on a team is more important than people think. And John Cooper, you know, when Lightning were in a grumpy mood, we were talking about, is this guy going to get fired? I'm interested to see, and he's getting fired not because he's bad, but because they need a change behind the bench. I'm interested to see if that negatively affects them, not having Derek Lalonde there.
Mm-hmm. It's very interesting.
I want to know if Sergachev is who the Lightning have developed him to be. This year, he's officially, it's so unfair, but he's now officially a top 4 defenseman there.
Yeah, because McDonough's gone.
Yeah,
so, it's really
there's a spot.
Yeah.
I have no worries about Hedman and no worries about Sergachev. It's just, who's on the third pair. Mm-hmm. But Cam Charron, who worked for the Leafs for the better part of a decade, and is now no longer there, and he's back on Twitter. He had a tweet that I thought was very funny. It was basically, listen, the Stanley Cup champions had Jack Johnson on their third pair last year. I think your third pair matters less than you think.
Yeah.
And the Lightning are hammering that. Well, look at their top 4.
Ian Cole and Philip Myers are their projected third pair. But you've got Philippe
former
Myers.
Marlies legend.
Victor Hedman, Cal Foote, Sergachev, Cernak. I think the biggest question mark is, can Cal Foote become the Cal Foote that they drafted?
Zach Bogosian should be in there somewhere, but he's injured.
Right.
So he'll come back at some point.
And
so Philippe Myers probably puts out and Bogosian's in.
Ironically, Cernak with a calcified foot because he blocked 90,000 shots during last year's playoffs.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so guys, it's a tough one.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you have them in the division?
I know people talk about Tampa like they're not really a regular season team, except all the good teams are regular season teams, so I have them second.
Jesse.
I think it's Tampa Bay Lightning destroy the world revenge season. I like the idea of it. I'm buying in. Steven Stamkos is going to go off again during the regular season. First in the Atlantic.
Wow. No kidding. I have Tampa at second. I think they're going to be a spectacular team. I think it is the revenge tour, Jesse, but I think the revenge tour means, A, we'll take it easy a certain number of nights, and we're going to remind the good teams during the regular season that we are the Tampa Bay Lightning. We'll destroy you. We'll feel very confident about it, and we'll roll into the playoffs, but we don't need first place. We need Stanley Cups. Second place.
I disagree. I think they're going to take the worst teams in the league, and they're going to be like, "Where's the money, Lebowski?" and they're just going to make an example of them.